Assalamualaikum dear viewers, this is Abdul Rafi, assistant teacher from Rangpur Jalaya School, and I am before you with a new topic, though I am before you after a long interval. And I think that during this interval nothing wrong has gone with you, and I think you will going to enjoy a new topic. And today's topic is the right form of verbs, and we know that the verb is the heart of a sentence, and without the verb we can't express our thoughts and feelings, and consequently it is sure that the right form of verbs or the use of right form of verbs is undeniable. So you will enjoy the class, and I think you will pay your full attention. Before that, let me show the parts how I am going to present the whole class, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 will deal with forms of verbs, part 2 is going to deal with context for verbs. So let's move on for some examples that will show us some forms of verbs, because without the correct form of verbs it is quite impossible for you to put the verbs in their right forms. Okay, so let's move on. Part 1, forms of verbs. There are the examples: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and finally 9. So if you look at the examples, especially if you look at the verbs, it will be clear to you that the verbs are not in the same form. So what are the verbs? The verbs are within the circle. So the verbs are not in the same form, and why they are taking these different forms we will discuss later on. Before that, let's try to name their forms. Present form, this is also present form, but these two forms are with some variation, without s or es, and second one is with s or es. And of course I will discuss why s or es is added to the verb later on. Okay, next, this is past form, as the sentence is written in past tense, and the fourth one is past participle form. Next, walking and running, they are present participle form. That means both the verbs have got ing form, but they are having the same name. But the next one, that means running, here in sentence 7, it has got different name. This is gerund form, though it has got the ing form. And of course I will try my level best to define why they have got different names. Next, to help, this is infinitive, and make this is also infinitive, but it is called bare infinitive as there is no to before the verb. So there are as many as eight kinds of verbs, and when you are going to write down something, then you will have to put your verb into any one of these 8 kinds. Okay, so let's move on to look at the verbs at a glance. V1 present form, V2 past form, V3 past participle form, then ing form, and of course infinitive form. So already we have known about different variations, and except V2 and V3, the other 3 have got different variations, and let's look at them. V1 with s or es, V1 without s or es, and they have got different names: gerund form and also present participle form. Finally, infinitive is with 2, that means 2 plus V1, and without 2, that means only V1. Okay, so keep all these forms in your memory, because you are to write your verb in any one of these forms, though it will depend on different contexts. So we're at the end of part 1, and now let's move to part 2 that will deal with context of for verbs. That means This part will show you why the verbs are taking different forms. Okay, so be serious because this is the main segment of our class. So there are some examples. Let's look at the restatement, how the verbs are restated here. So if you look at the sentences after their restatement, it is clear to you that they are expressing some different context, and they are: first one, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. This is a fact, this is scientifically true. The journey takes 2 hours by car. This is also a fact for the speaker. I don't like coffee or like coffee. This is an outlook. And we usually walk to our school. This is a habit. They are from different contexts, but they are common in one point, and this is permanent. Okay. And for your kind information, that we use present simple for talking about something permanent. So you need to think whether you are expressing something permanent or not. If you express something permanent, you need to use the sentence in present simple. So the present simple tense will also determine the forms of verbs, and here the verbs are boils, takes, don't like coffee or like coffee, and walk. So this is present simple. Let's move on for some more examples. And what about the restatement? And with the verb is also in present simple because of these phrases. And of course there is a note for you. We often use frequency expressions such as always, often, usually, generally, sometimes, hardly, ever, never, every, Saturday, twice a year, etc. with present simple because we use them to talk about habits and routines, and it is already known to you that habits and routines are written in present simple that confirms the present form of the verbs shown already in our previous slides. Okay, so let's move on for an activity, and before that let's look at the structure. Okay, so next, the activity 1 for you. Do it by yourself, and you can take the help from the previous slides if you need. So I'm not going to hang over this slide, rather I'm going ahead to give you some more information about the right form of verbs. Okay, so there are some more examples. And what about the restatements? So the context of the sentences are different, and let's look at what they are expressing. So I'm sending some emails urgently. This action is in progress now. That means the action is going on when the speaker is talking about the action. Next, Diane is having driving lessons. This action is not progressing now, but it is in progress around. That means the action is not going right at the time of speaking, rather the speaker or Diana is engaged in this activity. Okay. Next, the earth is becoming warmer. This is an ever-changing situation. Finally, this is a temporary situation. I'm working at home this week. That means I usually don't work at home, but this week I'm doing something at home. This is a temporary situation. The sentences are expressing something different situation, but they are common in one point, and this is unfinished activity. Okay, so for your kind information, present continuous is used for talking about something temporary or unfinished activity. So from so far it is clear to you that you need to think whether you are expressing something temporary or permanent. If you write something temporary, then you need to write the sentence in present continuous, and of course if you expressing something permanent, you need to write the sentence in present simple tense. And for your kind information, the tenses will determine the forms of the verbs. Okay, so let's move on something more. And what about the restatement? And here the verbs are taking continuous form, and because of these phrases, so there is a note for you. We often use time expressions such as now, right now, at the moment, at present, these days, nowadays, with the present continuous tense. Okay, so you need to think over the words or phrases because they are used to show some continuation. And the structure, okay, subject plus am is a plus verb ing plus object or complement or extension part. So let's move on something more. So what about the restatement? We're still waiting for the taxi. I'm not having guitar lessons anymore. It means the verbs have taken continuous form because of this word or phrases. So this is a note for you. We often use still and not dot 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 anymore to show continuation, and consequently the tenses will be present continuous. Okay, let's move on for something new. There are some more examples, and these words will misguide you because definitely will say that the sentences must be written in future tense, but these are not written as you are thinking, rather they are written in the way he is meeting Jan tomorrow night, they are getting married on 14th April, they are attending the meeting next week. It means the tenses are present continuous. Okay, why? Because the sentences are focusing on decision and planning. So when you are writing something temporary, but if you want to focus on decision taking and planning, then you must write them in present continuous tense, and that will confirm the ing form of the verb. So there is a note for you. We often use present continuous to talk about planned, intended or finalized future activities with a specified times. Okay, so this is your activity 2, and I am already at the end of the class, and I hope that before the next class you will be safe at home. Until then, Allah Hafiz.